You take, what did you say, a liberal in San Francisco or a freaking redneck in Montana, and you pull them into a room and say, do you want to be able to take care of your family? What are they going to say? They're going to say yes. Do you want to be able to handle yourself in a pressure situation? They're going to say yes. Do you want to be able to take care of yourself? They're going to say yes. So there's an alignment that's inherent in what you're teaching that absolutely will bring people together, but it'll make them better, not just because they're able to survive. It'll teach them a way of thinking that will progress them in every aspect of their life. And that's why I think it's even more powerful than what you're saying, because I could take some company executives and send them to one of your courses. And yes, it's a cool benefit that they're going to learn about survival. Just like I run a program where we take civilians, we teach them how to do a room clearance. We teach them how to move between buildings, right? This is a 45-minute session, right? How to clear a room and how to move from building to building in a group. That's what we teach them. Then we say, okay, here's your mission. And we start giving them missions. Now, what do they learn about clearing buildings? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter at all. But what do they learn about leadership? What do they learn about thinking under pressure? What do they learn about how to get people to move in the right direction? What do they learn about being able to detach and take a step back and not get caught up in the firefight? We use laser tag. Not get caught up in their laser gun and freaking out about that. So we take people and put them through this tactical training, not so that they can become great tacticians, but so that they can lead better. So what you're doing, hey, listen, it's great you put people through some training that they learn survival skills, but to me, an even higher up the hierarchy of benefits is that they learn a way of thinking that's going to benefit them in every aspect of their life. I think that's badass.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The lessons learned that we found is exactly that most often people aren't exposed. They have limited exposure. So when they have the opportunity to do something like, a 5-day experience, like we do corporate training, we've done it. I've consulted for Oracle and some other companies. It's not about, like you said, the technical experience. The bottom line is they're not going to learn enough reps to build that technical expertise unless that's on their own. But the life lessons they learned and taking it back and processing stress, like you said, is so important and valuable. I think what's happening with this introduction of technology in our lives is it's limiting our ability to be exposed. So one of the advices that I give for people who are like, how do I change my mindset? A lot of people say mindset. What the hell does that mean? In our field of expertise, it has to do with resilience, your ability to bounce back, your ability, once suppressed, to bounce back and to be stronger, to thrive instead of just survive and get by. So when we expose people to new challenges, it doesn't have to be extreme. You could we have extreme versions of this. We do SEER school. We have a civilian SEER school, which is fun to run. But those guys will come back from that experience, from a 5-day SEER experience, survival, escape, resist, evade, and they'll go, this is the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, okay, let me reflect on my impactful experiences. Oh yeah, Ranger School. When I was in Ranger School and I'm exposed and I'm vulnerable, it's impactful because it's something different. And we understand this obviously about even single-celled organisms. If you're exposed to trauma, that is the first stage in growth because no growth takes place without exposure to trauma. And so whatever that form factor is, getting pummeled on the mats in jiu-jitsu, you are learning as you go. You're breaking to build. And so what's fascinating about this whole movement that I think is preparedness is that it's positive. There's not a lot of negative things that take place in preparing people to be prepared for that worst case scenario. You see a lot of positive impacts on community, with law enforcement, with relationships, with people's understanding. And for me, getting all this collective of information and making sense of it and being able to clearly disseminate that is the biggest challenge. But it's the funnest thing about the business. I mean, the LMS, for example, of creating this idea that you could learn online and you could learn about these life-saving things. The naysayers came out and said, why would you teach somebody how to apply a tourniquet online? Like, don't you think that's kind of like it's high in liability and it's neglectful? I'm like, dude, you could build a rocket ship inside of your garage off a YouTube video. So I think I could teach somebody how to stop the bleed with a technical tourniquet applied to their body to help them survive. And so I'm fascinated by it. It's my passion, obviously, but I think you're right. I think especially when it comes to leadership, there's a breakdown in our societies with guys not willing to get off the bench and do anything for themselves. I was doing a podcast with Pete Blaber. He was a former CAG commander, wrote The Mission, The Men and Me, and just wrote part 2 of that, which is The Common Sense Way. And one of the things he talks about is this idea of collaboration. And when you collaborate with somebody, when you have communication and you have reciprocation, then you create the environment of us willing to learn from each other, but you also give people the confidence to stand up in their own communities and do something about it. I don't care if it's not their community. Like, yeah, you want to run for city council, that's great. You don't, and you just want to stand up and get off your ass for your family or even for yourself. You're fat, you're sloppy, you're lazy, and you can make a change inside yourself because you come to that realization. That's good. And for me, there's no revenue generated there. It could be a podcast. It could be one-way dissemination. That impact is priceless. It's worth everything in the world.